Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. We are done with chapter 8. Yay. But we still have a lot of questions. So I'm going to answer the questions right now. We're just going to go question. I'm not doing any reading today. We're just going right in for the questions on chapter 8. Okay, go ahead, guys.
Okay, perfect. So we're talking about communication, and Ariella comes in with a very juicy question. You ready?
Okay.
My husband and I are married, and we married each other at a later age. My mother-in-law always comments how she would have preferred that her son marry a 24-year-old. It makes me feel like she would have preferred that he not marry me. He says not to pay attention to her, but how can I not when she always says it? Her comments make me resent my husband.
Resent him because he doesn't stick up for her, meaning.
I guess because he just says to her, don't pay attention to her.
Uh-huh. How mean is that? Can I tell you something? Right? Let all you mother-in-laws listen up, okay? Everybody knows this. Keep your mouth shut and your pocketbook open. Okay, fine. We know that, right? So, but here's the thing. This is very serious now. I went to a gadol and I said to him, I just need to know, Rabbi, why are there so many divorces in our community? Like this, it's never been so bad. It's crazy. And you have, their kids getting divorced. They're married. They have one kid, they have two kids, and then they're divorced. They're married 3 years, 6 years. Like, what's going on? You want to know what he said the number one reason was? In-laws. He said the in-laws are coming in and picking apart the marriages until there's nothing left. I'm so shocked, and I almost don't even believe it. But he's gadol, so I have to believe that there's, that this is, maybe there's other reasons as well. But this is just so tragic and preventable with the right education. There's no words. Like, aren't you horrified? Like, let's get some boxes of tissues. This is just horrible, horrible. So if you're a mother-in-law or a father-in-law or an in-law of any nature for your daughter or for your son-in-law or your son and your daughter-in-law, whatever it is, take note. Use duct tape. Stay out of it. If your daughter comes to you with a problem and says, I don't know what to do, he said this and he said, you say, these are things you need to work out with your husband. I'm so sorry. And you're like, oh, how could I do that, Leah? She's coming to me for help. No, those are issues she needs to work out with her husband, and they will work it out. They are beshert because they are under the chuppah. Any couple that's under the chuppah, they are beshert. That's it. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. I don't care how close you are to your daughter. And now, she called you every day from summer camp. She calls you from seminary. You're very close, whatever. Now she gets married, and now she's calling you to complain about her husband. That's the end of it. I know it's hard. I know you were like, wait, I love being close to her. I love she can tell me anything. Yeah, well, guess what? How would you feel? She's got 2 kids and now she's got no husband. And now she's moving into your house and you only have, and you were thinking of your retirement years. Well, guess what? You're now watching her kids for the next 20 years. I'm being very harsh and critical and horrible about explaining this in harsh terms because this is what the gadol told me. So please, everybody, take note. Find a mentor in this area. Find a rebbitzin that you can talk to and say, what's appropriate behavior to help the couple? What do I do about this? How do I stay out of it? What do I do? Learn how to be. And maybe we should have, if anybody's watching and you want to write a book, how to be a mother-in-law, whatever, I volunteer to give you my 2 cents, and you can interview 20 people and write a book about it. It's so desperately needed. Obviously, if this is what the gadol is saying is the biggest cause of divorce today. Maybe he meant for the younger people. Actually, I could ask him. But anyway, the point is, this situation where your husband is not sticking up for you, this is, it says in the Torah, you shall leave your parents and cleave to your, to your wife. And he needs to say to his mother, listen, every time you say that, you hurt my wife's feelings, and please don't say it anymore. And it's very hard to get a husband to do that. Men, they feel like, oh, wait, kivud ava aim. Kivud ava aim stops where he's causing pain to your wife. Then you ask a shayla about this. Don't take Leah Richheimer's word for this. You got to ask your Rav, but I believe any Rav will tell you that if the mother-in-law is hurting the daughter-in-law, the husband is mechayev, he's obligated to protect her from that. And so now the question is, how do you, as the wife who's being hurt by the mother-in-law, get him to see that? It could be, you sit down again, both of you well-fed, both of you well-rested, and you say to him in a heart-to-heart conversation saying, I know I've told you that, my mother-in-law says about she wished you married a 24-year-old. Every time she says it, it hurts me. But what hurts me even more is that, I feel like as my husband, you should be stopping her from doing this. And I know that would be very hard for you, but I think you might be obligated, or it certainly would mean the world to me if you would do that. Just have a conversation with her and say, please don't say that ever again. Now, it is to the point, and again, you have to ask your local Orthodox rabbi about this, LOR, asking that, is it true that your husband should rather cut off all relationship with his parents or his mother before he lets him hurt you? I mean, that's pretty stark what I'm saying. If you listen to that correctly, it's like, what? Cut him off because she's just saying these couple of mean comments every once in a while? But it could be that if that was all it took, if that was the only way he could get her to stop putting you down this way, by giving the mother that threat, I'm not sure. Again, ask a rabbi. I'm saying this so strongly and so harshly, both because of what the Gadol told me about what's causing the marriage problems, and secondly, because a husband totally doesn't get how painful it is to be put down by a mother-in-law. It makes her feel worthless, and and again, she called it correctly when she says she resents him for it because he's not protecting her, and his job is to leave his parents and cleave to his wife. And if his loyalty is with his mother rather than him, they got a problem, and that husband needs to rectify this. So in order to get this done, there's so many moving parts here. If it's done harshly and meanly, and you're wagging fingers and you're threatening and you're whatever, it's going to blow up in your face. But if you carefully analyze how to handle this, you speak with a rebbitzin, you speak with your best friend, you go to a therapist to talk about how to handle it the best way possible. You talk to your husband in the best way possible, and you plan it out well. You can have a conversation that can make a difference and can stop this pain right away. And it's very, very crucial because, it does anything a parent does. I'm going to say this very clearly and very loudly. Anything a parent or a parent-in-law does to cause shalom bayis problems in the marriage is osur deraisa, meaning it's a sin against God. It's forbidden against God. It's forbidden to do that. So if she is saying something to the daughter-in-law that hurts her, that makes her upset at her husband, that's called sharing the shalom bayis. That's called getting in the way of their shalom bayis. And that is forbidden. That's a sin on her. She needs to ask Mechila for it. Forgiveness. She needs to, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, she needs to turn her, that mother-in-law is doing extreme amount of damage. She needs to know it. If you're a mother-in-law, be very cautious and careful because it is usher what she's doing. And again, I believe that her husband, whatever they need to do to stop that, whatever her husband needs to do, whatever the wife needs to do to communicate that to her husband. Again, I spent a bit of time on this particular question because it's so crucial. And again, a Gadol told me that it was one of the biggest problems in Klal Yisrael. So let's all work on it together, and we should all daven that Hashem should protect us from ourselves, from in-laws who are sabotaging. Should be stopped, and should get the education they need to be the in-laws that will support the shalom bayis in all of their children's marriages. Okay, very good.
Okay, beautiful.
Oh, how do you top that? What are you going to ask now?
I know, right? We started off hot. Okay. Hadassah asks, there's a very sensitive topic between my husband and I, and whenever it's brought up, it always leads to a break in our shalom bayis. I've tried bringing it up in a different way, in different tones, at different times. No matter what, my husband and I both have very strong opposing opinions on the topic, and we always end up arguing about it. We haven't brought it up in months to avoid the conflict, but I think it's important that it's brought up again to see if we can find some resolution. But I'm so afraid of upsetting my husband. What do you think? I was thinking of involving a Rav possibly.
That sounds like it needs a third party if you've tried so many times and it hasn't resolved. I'm dying to know what the issue is though. And whoever asked the question, if you can extrapolate and give us even a little bit of a hint, because if you're always arguing about what town you should live in, or if you're always arguing about, what color toothbrush to use, big, little, I don't know what the issue is. So whoever, whichever one of you sent in the question, if you could, or if it's from an email, then we're up the creek. We can't answer it. But if that comes in, but for now, the answer to that question, if I don't get any more data points, that is definitely something that needs a third party. And a third party can be a Rav, it can be a therapist, it can be a Rebbitzin, it can be, an older adult in your family, an aunt or an uncle who's really wise that you can both go to and sit down with, whatever sort of feels both comfortable for both of you. Not comfortable, it's going to uncomfortable conversation, but whatever is agreeable to both of you. Don't go to somebody that you like that he doesn't, or vice versa. For conflict of that nature that you've tried so many times, you definitely need a third party. Okay, very good. Go to the next question.
Okay, for all the women with moody husbands out there, here's a question.
Okay. I would get those. Hello. You were telling me how to. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Helen asks, my husband is moody and often snaps at me and our kids. If I ask him not to be, he tells me it's not about me and I take everything so personally. I don't know how to not take his moods personally when they impact all of our interactions. And I certainly don't know how the kids are supposed to not take it personally.
Okay. Great question. Very genius question. Guess what? God gave you a challenge. How are you going to live up to it? Are you going to be a victim and just say, my life is miserable because my husband's moody? Are you going to be constantly bickering with your husband about the fact that he's moody? What are you going to do with this problem that Hashem set down in front of your lap? So here's the thing. When somebody's moody, there are usually patterns to their moodiness. Not always, using myself as an example, not always, but often. So if your husband is moody when every time he walks in the door, that means you need to buy him some delicious nuts or chips or something in little bags, or put them in little Ziploc bags. And when he goes off to work, sitting on the chair in front of him, in the passenger seat or whatever, is a little Ziploc bag to eat on his way home. Okay. With maybe, they have these new containers that keep things cold for 24 hours. I don't know if they really work, but whatever. But if it says they keep them for 24 hours, then from his work day, let's say it's, 8 hours or 10 hours work day, it can certainly be a little chilled. So stick in there his favorite drink, whether it's a diet soda, maybe those aren't so healthy, whatever, maybe it's spritzer with a little juice in it, something that is kept cold. And again, you put that in a little lunchbox or something, get a cute one. Every day on his way home. On pre-thinking all of the things that would help reduce his bad moods it's a game changer. It's like, some things won't work. He'll try this or he'll try that or whatever they work. But this trial and error, not only does it might solve the problem in many cases, but it also shows him how much you care and how important it. And you're not just saying, be good, be a better person. Like that's not so easy. But it's like, okay, she realizes that I'm hungry. When I walk in the door, I'm always grouchy. It's probably because I'm having low blood sugar. Let's say he's moody when he wakes up in the morning. He wakes up as a grouch until he has his coffee. So you get him a little mug that says, don't talk to me yet until I've finished my, until I'm, I saw one actually, and it was really cute. It was a mug and it went down to here and it says, don't talk to me yet. Not yet. Not yet. Okay. Now you can talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Like as he finishes the coffee, whatever, try and second guess what's going on with this guy. Is he in a bad mood after he checks in on with the news and hears this, tsunami over here and this political battle over there and, all the, his sports team, whatever it is, losing all the time. Like try and analyze it. God gave you this problem. Okay. With Bini Sarah, with women's intuition and seichel and thinking and putting energy and time to it, you can figure out ways. And it might not be that you figure out all of his moods, but you could figure out 2 or 3 of them. And if you eliminate, let's say he gets in 10 bad moods a week that affects the whole family, right? If you eliminated 3 of them, or 4 of them, or maybe 6 of them, or help them, maybe not eliminated, but made them better. That would make the whole atmosphere in the home better. So use your smarts to figure out, when does he have these bad moods and what can you do about it? The second thing is about how it affects your kids. They don't take it personally. How are they supposed to not take it personally? Well, if he says, if the words come out of his mouth, they shouldn't take it personally, then you can, in front of him, you can say, do you mind if I sort of give the kids a little bit of a lesson on that? And they're like, what do you mean? And like, what? This is behind their kid's back. You're talking to your husband. Well, like, for instance, I was thinking that tomorrow, usually, after Shabbos lunch, you aren't in the best of moods. And don't say you're in a bad mood, baby. Say you're not in the best of moods. So would it be okay with you if I say, listen, after lunch, with my, daddy, whatever you go, Abba, Tati, whatever you call him, always ends up, when he's a little bit full, he tends to be in a little bit of a not so great a mood. So, but it's not because of you. It's not because you're a bad kid. It's not because you did something wrong. It's just that's how daddy is. So just when daddy's like that, just give him a little space. Don't climb on his head. Don't scream. Don't, like that. Just be a little bit mindful of it. Just like if anyone else, one of you is in a bad mood, we take a little bit better care of you. Would that be okay, dear, if I mentioned that to them? That might be a way. You said, what are they supposed to how are they supposed to not take it personally? So if you don't say that, then they'll take it 100% personally. If you say that, then they'll take it 50-50 personally, like they'll hear what you said, now, again, if you are doing all the things in your power behind the scenes to help his moods, that is the lion's share of making the problem better. Explaining it to the kids is another thing you can do to help make it not so hard. When someone's in a bad mood, speaking from watching other people, okay, when someone's in a bad mood, if you say, you seem like you're in a bad mood, you feel like punching them in the nose, okay? So, but if you're in a bad mood and someone says, oh, it seems like you need a little space, you're like, oh, that immediately puts you in a better mood, So learn these little tricks and techniques of how to deal with somebody in a bad mood. You can read articles on it. You can find out if your husband likes music. If he does, when you see that you can just tell by his vibe. You walk into the room and you're like, oh, I think he's in one of his bad moods. So, go over there and just put on his favorite, music or if you know that when he's in a bad mood, food helps or laughter or, showing him a funny meme that you came across, learn about his moods, become a bucky at his mood, become an expert, know what it is and how to get him out of it. And it's very important work. It's your job, and it can be very enjoyable to when you win. When you're like you give every day. He's been coming home for 5 years. Every day he comes home from work grouchy, and now you gave him a little tote bag with little snacks and a drink with it or whatever, and it's gone. Like he's not in a bad mood anymore. Like, wow, it's very satisfying work. Okay, good. Let's go to the next question.
Okay, amazing. Sarah Leah asks, my husband is going through a hard time and is often down. I feel disloyal when I'm in a good mood and he's sitting there so miserable. How can I be supportive of him without being depressed myself?
Excellent question. That is a question to ask him. What do I do? Sometimes you get a little down, which is fine. We're all entitled to whatever. When you're down, do you want me to give you a lot of space? Do you want me to be my bubbly, happy self? Tell me what works for you and supports you in getting, in being able to have the space you need, like that. Simple as that. And he'll tell you. And if he doesn't say, yeah, I really need to know, say whatever you want to do, that's fine. Say, I feel bad when I'm being all bubbly and happy. But again, if you're bummed out and, kind of whatever, I don't want to bring myself down. I don't know how to deal with it in a way that is most productive for our family. What do you think? Put the problem in his hands. And for podcasters, I'm putting my hands in a bowl and handing it to the husband. Let him solve this problem for you. Okay, good. Next.
Okay, great. Deanie's question is, my husband is the type of guy that just wants to have fun. His ideal date night is bowling or a theme park. I'm much more of a candlelit dinner type of girl. Taking turns doesn't really do it for us. So as he will do it for me, but I know he doesn't enjoy it. So I just end up feeling guilty and just want to go home. We have spoken about it, but I can't really come up with a solution. Any ideas?
So, it's very cute. The issue is that, you said you've spoken about it, but can't come up, do I have ideas? I'd love to know his ideas. Like, how does he think he would solve this? Like, if he said take turns, if that was his idea and you're not into it, you need to think of more ideas. But, when you said that when you go bowling with him, it seems to me like that's time already served. You did that for him. So when you're on the date, even if he's not enjoying it so much, it seems to me like you could not have guilt about it. Like you could get like that guilt. It's in my mind doesn't belong because this is the deal you made, and this is the if he this is the compromise you made that could totally work if you didn't feel guilty. And then you'd go to dinner and you'd know this was mostly done for you, and he wasn't enjoying it as much. But who cares? He's doing a gift for you. Just like I'm sure when you're bowling with him and you're going up there and he just gets a strike after strike after strike, and you go there and you got the gutter things, that pop up, and you're like, and you have the gutter and still one pin on the end goes down, you're like, okay, whatever, and you're like, fine. And he's beating you like 10 times to one, he gets whatever. Okay. So, but while you're doing that, you think he's sitting there thinking, oh, I feel so guilty for, making her do. No, he's having a good time. He's with you. He's enjoying it. He's, whatever. And by the way, there are ways to compromise these kinds of things. Like if you really hate bowling or whatever the other thing, I forget what you said, if you hate that, you can go and bring crocheting with you or bring, a video game that you can play while he's doing his thing. You want to be with him. So it's not kind of like you want to separate yourself from it. But be willing to compromise on those little things. So, I know a couple that he liked to go drives in the country, and she's like, we're not doing anything. Okay, I saw this farm already. I saw, whatever. It's like, hello, but that was like his way of just sort of being in nature. She would rather hike or she'd rather horseback ride or do something, but he just likes driving, through the thing. It was expensive gas, but that's what he liked. So, she landed up doing things on her lap while she was doing it. You have to be careful because you can get car sick or whatever. And she had some kind of a board. I don't know what it was, but she said you took some kind of pen and it was you could kind of like it made colors. So I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it was a iPad kind of a thing. Who knows? But you can make these compromises and it's a win-win. So that would be my recommendation for it. Number one, get rid of the guilt when he's dating you. He's not feeling guilty at all. When you're in a candlelit restaurant, he's not feeling guilty at all when you're bowling with him. Try and find ways to make what he wants to do a little bit more enjoyable. May you always have such problems. Okay, good.
Also, they could split the date in half, go bowling, then do dinner or ice cream after.
Not a bad idea. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Simi asks, I'm a newlywed and come from a generation where smartphones at the dinner table is the norm. I feel like my husband and I don't know how to spend time together. When we do put our phones down, it's just awkward and edgy to go out with him. How do you teach yourself to be emotionally intimate with each other? Ooh, really good question at the end.
Wow. First of all, I've got the emotional intimacy masterclass. You can go find that. Yay. So that's one thing. But the issue is that it's really that's a very hard question because I had a friend of mine is a teacher and she was going off somewhere. Whenever I say, oh, where are you going? She said, I'm going to a Yom Yiyun, a day of learning in the Jewish schools. And I said, oh, what's it for? And she said, it's to teach toddlers eye contact. I said, what do you mean? She said, yeah, the young millennial moms are busy on their screen time the whole time that they're never making eye contact with their kids. So we're getting kids who come to, to nursery school and kindergarten and first grade who don't know how to look somebody in the eye. It's like, whoa, this unintended side effects. It's like, hello, right? So she said that what they learned how to hold their hands, look in their eyes, and how to retrain a kid how to connect. So the problem that you're discussing is not insignificant, and it's not only you. It's a question of, I'm not an expert on I didn't go to that yum, so I don't know what they taught there, but I do know that there is a, being able to be in awkwardness is a very, very valuable skill. So I remember, when we were in some kind of a training, I'm trying to remember, it was years ago. And what they said is that, you ask someone a very pointed question, and then it's awkward because they don't know how to answer, and they don't, they're digging deep, but it's just this awkward moment. And your best bet, Leah, is to just be with that awkwardness, to give them the space they need to be able to share themselves, to be able to introspect, to be able to figure out what they're really feeling, and then be able to express it. So that time, that being able to be with awkwardness is what allows for a deeper connection. So I get it. You put your phone down and then it's awkward. If you can even laugh about awkward, and you can say, listen, I love you so much. I'm so happy I married you. And I know we're both like, the way things are today, everybody's on their phone and on their separate things and doing their separate things. And then when they put them down, do you realize there was even, a whole Yom Yun at the Jewish Center, or I don't know what it was, at the Jewish Hanhala got together and did this course on how to connect, because it's so, because of our generation, what we're dealing with. So this isn't just us who has this issue, but I'm so important to me to be able to connect better than you. So let's just put our things away and then just say, okay, this is awkward. What do we want to talk about? And maybe prepare yourself a list of like 20 questions that you're going to ask your husband. Why did you go to that camp? How come you chose to go into that profession? How old were you when you made that decision? Why did you decide that? What were your goals when you were a little boy? What did happen when you went on that vacation? I know your mom had mentioned something that you were in Panama. What was that? Whatever it is, make up 20 questions of like, random things that are sort of, that you don't know all the background from, and interview your husband on it. He'll love it. Or maybe also make a list of 20 topics you could talk about. Talk about how when you were in high school, you were the geo head and the activities head, and and what you did and how you got it, and was it voted, or was it did the teachers choose, and how proud you were, or how difficult it was, or that you didn't get the geo head and your best friend did, and how hard it was for you. Think of like 20 different things that are interesting about your own life that you want to share with him. But the main homework for you is to live through awkward moments, to share your goals with your husband. If I want to be able to communicate deeper, I want to be able to connect more, I want to be able to share our lives more instead of being on the screen all the time. And we don't have a good precedent for it. We don't really know how to do it, but let's just try. And then have lists of questions. So you can even bring the notebook with you and say, I didn't really know what to do. I know we're on a date or whatever, but I was thinking about like, boy, what would I love to know about my husband? And so I wrote them down. I hope that's okay, to kind of hopefully be a little fun. So that would be the definite plan for getting closer with this monkey in the room, which is the screens that are disrupting all of our connections with people. And on the other hand, they are, you can email an aunt who you haven't talked to in a while, and instead of, making a whole deal of it, you can just say, hey, I was thinking about you. I love you. So there are some good aspects to it as well. But for our connection and our being able to sit in a quiet, intimate moment with our husbands, the screens definitely get in the way of that. So, okay, that's it. That's all we have time for today. I'm going to give you homework, and the homework is one time this week when you are on the screen, shut it down and connect with your husband. Okay. One time this week, put your thing down. You're in the middle of something urgent. Other urgent things are coming in. Put it down and connect with your husband. That's the homework. Okay. This is Leah Richheimer. Stay tuned next week. We're going into chapter 9. We're getting in deep here, and I can't wait to see you. Thanks. If you want more, we have so much more. If you want to learn our Masorah and have an awesome marriage, the first thing we have is a foundations course. It's a 13-week course. You get all your questions answered. It's live with me, and you can ask Q&A. It's awesome. Second thing we have is a coaching program. If you are awesome with people and you want to know the Masorah better than 99% of the people on the planet Earth, like for reals, okay? It's a 4-month program. It's very intense. We have major scholarships, and we have somebody who's granted in a lot to pay for a big bulk of it. It's still a little expensive, but for what you get, and then you can start charging money to know it. That's the coaching program. Don't miss it. Go to www.ladiestalkshow.com. Look up the foundations course, look up the coaching. We do retreats, we do all kinds of stuff. You'll find it there. www.ladiestalkshow.com. Thanks for being with us. Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show.